Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Skyzone Cobra FPV box goggles. Now there are two versions of this goggle. There's the Cobra X and the Cobra S. The Cobra X is the more expensive one, and I've been hearing that these are the best box goggles that you can buy, but they should be really, because I was surprised about the price. Yeah, the specs are good, so they are validated by the price. The Cobra X at the making of this video costs about 160 GBP, and the Cobra S costs about 119 GBP. The difference being the resolution. So the Cobra X does 1280 by 720 and the S is 800 by 840. This one looks like we've also got a 16 by 9 crop. We've also got H.264 compression on the DVR, whereas MJPEG is just like the usual DVR that you get in a pair of Fat Sharks, quite low quality. But yes, quite expensive, and I find this difficult at the moment to recommend goggles, because if you say go for the high-end Fat Sharks, you are getting into the territory of DJI and recommending those when you go for that. So this kind of sits in the middle at 160 GBP for the Cobra X, if that is the version I've got. It could be the Cobra S. I was under the impression that the black version is the Cobra X and the white version is the Cobra S, which that'd be unfortunate, because I'd actually prefer the white model for when the sun is shining. Otherwise this black material can heat up quite quickly. It doesn't actually say anywhere on the box which version this is though, so let's get it opened. Now it is worth stating that some people can only wear box goggles, because the more compact goggles like Fat Sharks and the Skyzone compact goggles, such as the OLEDs that they do, their eyes don't line up no matter what they change the IPD to, so box goggles are the only option. So if this is a more premium box goggle, nothing wrong with box goggles either. In fact, I'm a big fan of box goggles. The only downside is that they are bigger and they are heavier, more difficult to carry around, but you often find the image is better from a box goggle than it is your Fat Sharks. You know, you make a compromise with the compact goggles to get it down smaller, but if you want immersion, sometimes box goggles are better, especially with a 50-degree field of view that they are boasting with this goggle. So let's take a look at what we have got inside. We are greeted with a customer service card. Looks like we've got a user manual. We've got some Velcro there, so that's going to be to stick on the faceplate. This is very nicely packaged, I have to say. Got something here with a bunch of stuff in. Let's take a look at the goggles. So still no indication, I don't think, of which version this is I've got. I think it's the Cobra X, so the more expensive one. So my first impressions are that it's a bit plasticky. There's quite a bit of weight to it, and if you are wondering about the size, this is a VR headset. It's the Oculus Quest 2, so it's smaller than that. These are the DJI HD goggles, and they are smaller than that. Quite a bit of weight to them, actually. And the reason they are small is because they're not using your traditional LCD panel here. Instead, it is using a series of mirrors, and that means that it can project it further than it actually is physically. We've got this lens here as well. Looks like it's got a little bit of a speck of something on there for each individual eye. It doesn't look like we have got any adjustment, and they have forgotten to give me these foam pads here. I've looked back at the unbox footage, it is not there, so that could be quite uncomfortable for me. When I look at other videos and images and things like that, there's some pads down here which I'm sure would make it more comfortable. When I put it on my face like this, It's not quite round enough for my face. There's a little bit of a gap at the side, but you know, I always have to put a disclaimer with my goggle reviews because everybody experiences goggles differently. We all have different shaped faces, different sized noses, and our eyes are spaced further apart or closer together, and we have a different prescription as well for those who need corrective lenses. And one of the things advertised with this is that you can wear glasses over the top. Now, I don't think my glasses are going to fit because they're too big. You'd need some quite thin glasses. It's a bit of a shame. I'm sure Skyzone would sort you out if that happened. I have a feeling that my nose is going to catch on there. The nose gap, however, not looking too big compared to other goggles. You know, I mean, the DJI goggles, they're not known for being like the most comfy fit, but you can see I've got this thick aftermarket DJI foam on there, which is sold by DJI, and I've essentially got that big of a gap for my nose, and on this one, just that tiny bit there. You can power it up in a couple of ways. I have put in an 18650 battery there. Apparently you only get half an hour of use out of that, and some people have only been getting 15 minutes, so probably not recommended to use this. If we take a look at the features underneath the goggles, we've got HDMI in, we've got audio, video in and out, micro SD card, so built-in DVR H.264. It will take up to 128 gigabyte micro SD card. We have got USB here. You can power it off USB alone if you want to have like a power bank in your pocket. Then this is a head tracker out and the DC in to power it. So yeah, built-in head tracker in this thing. So that's quite unusual, but Skyzone quite often put head trackers in a lot of their goggles, so that's good to see because I love messing around with head tracking and fixed wing. On the top here we've got two scroll wheels, looks like that's the on button, and we've got like a mode button on the side there as well. I'm actually glad that I'm not seeing many buttons. Quite a lot of the compact Skyzone goggles, they've got buttons everywhere, lots of different functions, really hard to know what button to press when you're flying. And then on the top here we have got what they are calling, I think, the rapid mix receiver. They're calling it a couple of things, but it's actually a module that you can take apart. So I think it's, yeah, it's a little bit tricky to get out, but you can see there it's a 5.8 gigahertz receiver. It's not using the usual Fat Shark cover base, so if you wanted to, say, put rapid fire in there, I'm sure there's a 3D printed part for it, but it sits on the top rather than on the side. Let's see what we've got in the package here. So that looks like a barrel connector so that you can connect up to a 6S LiPo, I believe. That's not gone on properly there, make sure that's on. Then we have got a, looks just like a mono cable that, and in here just more audio and video cables for video in and out, I guess you could say that was. And we've got the USB-C to power up. Unfortunately, the only antennas are rubber ducky antennas. I believe that this receiver here, it does something similar to the rapid fire where it takes both images and it smushes them together to give you the best image rather than it being diversity, but you might want to swap out these rubber ducky antennas. Very close together as well, actually. Now, I've been playing with this guy for about 10 minutes and the battery has drained already. I've had to replace it, so I would say just don't use this battery here. It might be good for a tiny whoop flight, but if you've got a huge model that you are relying on, this battery, it just turned off without any warning. There is a battery indicator in there, but it goes off after a few seconds, so I wouldn't recommend using this battery here. To turn it on, it's a long press here and we should get the Skyzone logo showing up, and then you should be able to see how big the screen is. So I would say 50 degrees is about correct. Now I don't know if it's just because I haven't got the foam on here. I'm going to have to put my own foam on just so that I can give it a fair test, but you know, Skyzone has sent it without this foam here. But what I have to do is I have to tilt it upwards to be able to see the on-screen display. So this power button here, if you give it a short press, see if I can get it to focus. Short press will give you an on-screen display that I have to tilt up for my eyes to see, as well as the camera. Gives you the band and channel information, as well as the battery information, the SD card information. As you can see, it goes off. But I have to tilt it to see that, otherwise it's not in my field of view. The power button also doubles up as a stop-start button for the fan. So there's a very quiet fan running. It might not even be picked up by the microphone on my camera, but if I press it once to get the on-screen display up and press it again, it turns the fan off. That's to demist the thing. So then we've got the mode button here. If you long press it, I believe that's like the head tracker function. So yeah, it comes up with a beep, and then I think it's a short press, and we should be able to get the menu up. Is it 2 presses? Yeah, it's 2 presses. Then we have got things like the head tracking options. That's when you then use this rocker and a press down to go into those different options. So if I press down on there, we've got image. Don't know if it's going to show through very well because I'm trying to do 2 things at once here. There's brightness, contrast, saturation, hue, sharpness, and then return. So we've got DVR options here, and we've got cyclic record, auto record off, video length, and record audio on, format SD card, and return. I have to say that this rocker has really improved the way that you can use the functions, because it seems like it's got all of these functions that the compact goggles have got that I complained about, but the rocker and the press down on it to enter makes it better. So we've got display here, so OSD timeout, you can change that if you want. I think that's a little bit quick actually, or you could have it on permanently, you know, if you want to see the battery monitor of this thing. So OSD transparency, aspect ratio 16:9 it says there. So let's change that to 4:3 and see the way that it crops. So RSSI display position, let's just return out of there and return here. So that surprised me because it's actually cropped the sides. So I'm a bit confused on how they can say that the S version is 4:3 only but 50 degrees. I would assume then that the S version has actually got a bigger field of view, because we are losing field of view in 4:3. That's really surprised me. I thought it would have been a 4:3 50-degree screen, and then when you go into 16:9 it crops it. It's not, it's the other way around. So actually you will end up with a smaller image potentially in 4:3 mode than you would on the S version, the cheaper version, when that's in 4:3 mode, because it's always in 4:3 mode. That's an unusual choice, I think. So then we've got a few options here: the power supply, voltage calibration if that's out, RSSI calibration, RF mode mix, so that's the rapid mix. What other options have we got in there? Diversity, and we have got just those 2. So it's interesting, isn't it? I'm going to go with the mix. Language, I believe you've got 10 languages with the X version. I think the battery's going on this already. Man, that is bad, isn't it? You see how it's flickering? It's gone out of the menu system. Yeah, I would say don't use that battery that's in there. It looks like it's already failing. So what else have we got? Yeah, so that's it really on that one. And then to go through the channels, it is this scroll wheel here. So you get the menu up at the top, and then the scroll wheel will take you through different channels. Press down, you can switch between the band and the channel that way, or then a long press will do an auto scan. If you want to do that, I don't recommend doing auto scans at all, and then it's a long press to get out of there. They're a little bit fiddly, these menus, I have to say. Then this button here is to start and stop the recording of the DVR. I've got another scroll wheel here which gives us some input and output settings, I think. So again, we get the menu at the top, and then more options down here. We've got RF normal, RF racing, RF third party, AV input, and HDMI input, and playback as well, so you can play back from that menu. I have to say, I do find these settings, it's great that there's a lot of settings there, but if this becomes your main goggle, you will get used to it. It's just, you know, not very intuitive to start off with. So I'm just getting set up here. I've done a quick test to check whether the DVR saves when you pull the battery, and it doesn't. It creates a corrupt file. So make sure you always stop the DVR before pulling the battery, otherwise you're going to lose it. Okay, let's have a fly with the diatone roamer. It's been a while. Let's get around these trees and see what the reception is like before some people come. Reception is great. I'm using the periscope antenna from Menace, and I'm also using a Pico patch, which is my usual setup. Now, when it comes to comfort, they are sitting right on my nose. I'm sure a little bit of padding could sort it out, because they're not actually very heavy when you don't have a battery in. I've got the battery going into my pocket and it reaches nice and lightweight like that. Ever since I've had the DJI goggles, I've appreciated that. It does make them much lighter. Reception is amazing, I have to say, although, you know, the roamer is fantastic for reception and really clean video. That's why I picked it, to sort of showcase the DVR, really. I'm getting some light leak around the sides. Very sunny today, and I don't think there's much I could do about that unless I stuff more foam down there. I can see the screen nice and clearly. I'm in 4:3 mode here, and it's still big enough for me to be able to see things, but the full field of view would have been nicer. Now, you can just fly a 4:3 camera in 16:9 and get the image stretch, but I don't like it. I tend to find that it ruins it a little bit for me when it comes to the perspective. But you cannot pixel spot. What I am seeing is a reflection of the lenses from the light leak inside, so I can see like a pair of glasses in the middle of the screen. So my prescription is for short-sightedness, so I'm a -2, and I can see this really clearly. And it's not a strain on the eyes either, which is important, especially for box goggles. So that's worked. It's just the ergonomics on the western nose. So let's go down here. Let's see if we get any breakup. See what it's like. Mind the tree. I've got quite docile rates on this one. Yeah, not sure it's as good as rapid fire, but you know, it's pretty good. It's decent enough. Yeah, pretty nice day here today. Yeah, it's starting to dig in on my nose. If I don't have it on the tip of my nose, then I can't read the on-screen display at the bottom or at the top. Oh, and I just turned my head because I wanted to turn that way, because I actually had my back to those trees when I went over there. So let's try that again. Oh yeah, that's better. Yeah, the reception's good. Yeah, I can see what it's doing. It like mixes the signal between the two. You can probably hear my nose. It sounds like someone's pinching my nose, or I've got a blocked nose. Is the DVR still going? Oh, I'm going to end up with a big mark on my nose. So yeah, I think this would get uncomfortable for me after a while. Would I recommend them over the EV800s? I'm not sure I would, you know, just because of how they fit. But as with all FPV goggles, you know, you have to try them very difficult, you know, hygienically trying goggles, especially now. I can't breathe out my nose now. It's like they've slipped down. But you know, they're usable. They're usable for sure. I think, you know, if the field of view is bigger in 4x3, then I think I'd go with the S version, you know, because most cameras are 4x3. So I think that's what I go for if you are really interested in this goggle. But, you know, all I can say is from the shape of my face, I'm having issues ergonomically. It's crushing my nose. My nose, I can't breathe through my nose. It's crushing both nostrils. I'm gonna have a big line on them, I think. But, you know, if you're interested in these, I'll put a link in the video description as well as a pinned comment if you wish to get one. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers. Feels like my nose is falling off.